Welcome back to the second battle of our Goon tournament for Rise of the Samurai. Currently, Generic Services as the Taira is fighting Yukitsu as the Minamoto. Now, Yukitsu has taken the first fight, but can Generic Services bring it back to 1-1? He's deploying a fairly similar loadout, his bodyguard and hero, obviously. The two Naginata warrior monks, he swapped his sword attendants for multiple Naginata attendants, and his two bow monks for bow levy and bow attendants for extra force. Now, Yukitsu has also had a complete army change. Gone are his mounted Naginata, and instead you'll notice that he's bringing sword attendants and a large number of bows. 2 regiments of foot samurai, I believe, yes, 2 full regiments of foot samurai, in addition to the regular ranged units he's bringing and the Naginata warrior monks. He's also bringing a little bit of extra Naginata levy. Now, one thing that is critical that a lot of new players in Shogun 2 have in multiplayer is capturing buildings. Capturing buildings is critical in deciding the outcome of the battle. The bonuses they provide are quite large, and they're really quite a big benefit. Now, we've got some early skirmishing going on, where Yukitsu is going to try to take both buildings, both the archery dojo, increasing reload rate and ammunition, and the workshop, which increases melee defense and armor. And it's quite a good thing to be very aggressive with the crowd control at the moment. Now, over here, you'll notice we have the sword dojo, which increases melee attack and charge. It would have been quite useful for Generic Services to even just swing his mounted samurai hero over, dismount, and take that, because by the time it hits a critical point in the fight, he would likely have taken it and he can get them back fairly quickly. With no cavalry of Yukitsu's to harass him, he could seize that and at least counter the advantage that this particular armory is going to give. Now, you'll notice that this bow levy, who normally have 1 armor, now have 3, and who normally have 1 melee defense, now have 4. Having controlled the armory, he now gets +3 armor and +3 melee defense to all of his units, and this will make an enormous difference in the ranged battle that comes, with armor being so critical. These bow attendants, they have 3 armor, and there's less of them. And so these foot samurai also, now the focus fire appears to be on the bow levy, and this is problematic. Hi, Jiawan. Because the foot samurai are really the main threats. And so, really, they should be being focused on. Now, so it does appear that he's doing some focusing on them, but probably not as much as he should. His general's bodyguard's too close to the fight, but that's not a huge issue. He can always pull them back if necessary. So, at the moment, the Naginata levy have been withdrawn without capturing the archery dojo, primarily because I assume they're under too much pressure, with a nice attack from Generic Services. Now, this is what he needed to do last match, because there's a large number of bow units here, although there are foot samurai there, so they're not to be considered easily killed, but nevertheless, fantastic. So, a lot of pressure on Yukitsu, and he's forced to respond, which is exceptionally good. You should really... The aggressor has a huge advantage in Shogun 2, and you should really be pushing it for everything it's worth. Now, the general's in a good position, he's central, and these Naginata levy, in a great move from Yukitsu, are going to use to blunt the Naginata attendant's charge, and one of these guys tying up a whole flank so the rest of his forces can get in position is fantastic. Now, these warrior monks on this flank versus the Naginata levy should be doing alright. As you can see, they're in red morale, and a war cry here would just shatter them and would end it. But unfortunately, the same problem he had in the first match, he just doesn't use his abilities. We can see that there is an Inspire going on with these sword attendants and a rally set up and stand and fight. Now here's another issue. The mounted samurai hero are amazing general snipers. They should be putting shot after shot into the general's bodyguard with the purpose of killing him. Killing the enemy general is absolutely critical and swings a fight. It can be well worth throwing away 1, even 3 units to ensure you kill the enemy general. So even just tying him down in melee combat will help and really puts the pressure on, because people will try to save their general. But unfortunately, there's just too much pressure here. These warrior monks with their war cry, combined with the sword attendants and their hefty charge, just the sheer numbers grinding through. Only guys that are holding against this sort of pressure are the warrior monks, and even they don't plan on hanging around. The general's bodyguard have been caught by the warrior monk hero, and that's going to be the end of it. With his general gone, Generic Services just has no chance of holding. He put up a great fight, but in the end, it wasn't enough to beat Yukitsu. And in my opinion, it was the workshop that did it. The extra armor and melee defense means that they're just that much harder to push through. If he'd been able to take the sword dojo, he'd have the extra charge, he'd have the extra melee damage, and that would mean that he'd be able to counteract the impact of the workshop. Nevertheless, it was a fantastic effort, and honestly, he shows an enormous amount of potential. He did get outplayed by an experienced opponent, but there's nothing to be ashamed of in that. He demonstrated that he has a solid grasp of the fundamentals, and with a little bit of practice and just perhaps a little bit more understanding of the key things on the battlefield, such as taking and holding the control points and using his abilities effectively, it would really be a totally different battle. He's still in it, and I still rate him as a good chance to win. If he can work out exactly what he did wrong and just learn a little bit of when to push, when to withdraw, and skirmish a little bit harder with his mounted samurai hero, keep his general a little bit more central, stand and fight and inspire, I think he's in a great chance to take the tournament. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed it.